I ate a whole shakaroni, Maury.
A lot of people give other people credit, but I'll tell you honestly, Maury, I invented cheese stuffed crust. I invented the cheesy calzone, Maury. They profit off of my work.
The Cool Ranch Dorito calzone.
They called me crazy when I came up with the meatball marinara cheesy flaming hot Cheeto Dorito.
Who do you
Calzone.
think is the papa in the papadilla?
People always said, Maury, you can't fold the pizza in half. I did it, Maury. And I did it, 2 for $7.99 each, Maury.
Well, it's yellow, the color of the Minions, and you know what that means. Today we watch Brick by Brick, Piece by Piece, the Pharrell Lego Movie. So Aiden, what's the plot of the Pharrell Lego Movie, Piece by Piece?
Piece by Piece is a documentary, an interview-style documentary about the life of Pharrell Williams, who famously made Happy from the Minions and the McDonald's song, and he produced some songs for Snoop Dogg and some other people. It tells the story of his life from early childhood to like 10 years ago, since he hasn't made anything of note in like 10 years. And for some reason this interview-style documentary is animated in Lego, which is used for Lego-themed visuals. Connor, what did you think of Piece by Piece, the Lego Pharrell movie?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was a narrative feature until yesterday when I read it wasn't. But I still wanted to see it. Pharrell is a music producer from the early 2000s who came up against people like Kanye West in the kind of post-masculine hip-hop era before hip-hop went to weird drug addict era. But there was like an era like right after 50 Cent where people just wanted to do like metrosexual raps.
Yep.
And that's where Kanye and Pharrell came in.
Yep.
And well, I'll always be partial to Kanye. I like Pharrell too. He's done some good albums.
Sure has.
And I don't know. I was like, yeah, I guess the concept of a biopic with Lego characters is kind of interesting. I passed on the previous big budget Lego movie, Lego Ninjago, so I figured I should
Gotta make up for that.
Maybe the Lego Movie 2 was actually next, but is there just a dead fly? No, he's just eating something. Whatever.
What is that?
It's a fly that's eating like a piece of chocolate that's on my...
Weird.
It's a horse fly too. Anyways. So yeah, I was like, okay. The concept is sort of interesting. You got Pharrell, and he was one of those big producers. If you know a Pharrell song, probably they played on the radio. Even if you're not like a hip hop fan,
movie.
They do play the majority of Pharrell songs that are even remotely appropriate for a Lego movie, in a CG animated PG rated Lego movie.
And they play a Kendrick Lamar song, but they censor out all the swear words and all.
Well, a lot of them you can see the swear word censor now. Like like 90% of this movie's album is like random like gangster rappers he worked with back in the day, or maybe not gangster rappers per se, but you got like Jay-Z, who's a hustle rapper, and
Snoop Dogg. There's Lego marijuana in this movie.
There's Lego marijuana. But yeah, no, so basically it goes through Pharrell's life story. It's definitely very much kind of a fluffy interpretation as told through the narrative of Pharrell. There's a number of interviews which kind of shape the story. So essentially the filmmakers set up a series of questions for Pharrell to guide him through his career, and got associated artists from relatively small artists that he worked with in Virginia, like Pusha T, who came up around the same time as him, Missy Elliott, to like Gwen Stefani and Jay-Z superstars. And those kind of informs the story. their music and Pharrell's subsequent production kind of being the background in the movies about like creativity and such.
Yep.
I think, it's a cute greatest hits album vessel for Pharrell.
Yep.
That's what it feels like, because it's like, oh, remember this classic song done by Nelly, or this one done by Jay-Z, or this one done by Gwen Stefani, or when he made the Happy song for Despicable Me, a product of Universal,
When he wrote
which
the
is
McDonald's
affiliated
song.
with... Yeah, the McDonald's song is going to be an interlude on the Greatest Hits album. It's just his... just him doing the McDonald's jingle. Yeah, no, I mean, Pharrell, he's a good producer. It's interesting. He seems like a creative guy. And I think, like, him and the creatives behind this made something very visually interesting. I do think it's insane that Lego, which was a pretty successful movie property at Warner Brothers, when transferred to Universal, has burned 4 years of their 5-year contract with Lego. And the only thing they came up with doing is a documentary Lego biopic for Pharrell that looks tremendously high budget. Not like as much as like the Lego movie or something, but like...
It looks like it costs a lot more than your average interview-style documentary, which would cost like $1,000 to make.
Yeah, I mean, even like Drunk History, which I think is a fairly comparable format, where it's interview person who knows about the subject, or in this case, people who lived the subject with Pharrell, and they talk about their experiences regarding this part of Pharrell's career, and then they talk about it, and it's animated by a guy, or by the Lego team, or whoever the fuck animated this. And I think it's in part essentially a vessel for a greatest hits album for Pharrell.
Yep.
In part because maybe it helps Universal keep the rights to Lego. I don't know how their contract works, but it's supposed to lapse next year. I don't know if that's something that's going to not happen if they didn't rush some shit out real quick and Pharrell wanted to do it and they're like, okay, fuck it, we're going to want to keep the rights. But this does not seem like something that particularly wouldn't flop. Like, I'm not saying Pharrell doesn't have his fans, but the fans in my theater specifically, which was the smallest auditorium in the entire theater,
all the way
was
in the
us and one other person on opening night. Granted, this is a PG movie, so maybe it'll do better later. But I also noticed AMC marketed it as an artesian film. So there's questions of, like, who the fuck is this for? Like, I don't think Pharrell has... I feel like the ultimate consumers are Pharrell fans who are so in love with his music they want to see the biopic, or just music fans. But then they also subsequently have to be fans of Lego, which, I mean, I'm looking at the Venn diagram of still a fan of Pharrell in 2024, Lego fan, and then, like, Heyday Pharrell fans, which is, like, mostly, like, rap music and Gwen Stefani. And I'm seeing a pretty small triangle in the middle of this Venn diagram.
Yeah,
but somebody said this will probably be successful, and they made it.
This is a destined flop.
But I will say, like, it was cute. The animation was good. I thought it was kind of weird that also with the Lego brand and the Pharrell, just a bunch of brands and shit, they make it surprisingly religious at points. Like in a Tyler Perry way, where they're like,
well, it's not
Pharrell
just that,
went to church and started floating around, and like God's gonna save everybody.
The first act has all the religious stuff, and then the second has a bunch of Lego characters drinking and smoking weed. And then the third act, the twist ending of the movie is that after Pharrell made Happy and did nothing since then, they're like, well, we need to wrap this up somehow, and then Lego George Floyd happens.
No, I think it was Trayvon Martin. Because it was the Don't Shoot. I don't know who the Don't Shoot was.
There's some people who don't breathe signs up there, too.
Yeah, I think it was like vague police brutality is what inspired
All Right
that he did with Kendrick Lamar.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I like a lot of these musicians. Everyone was fun. I don't think, like... I thought some of the Lego rappers were kind of fun, and sometimes it would be like, this is my friend, rapper McGee, who dressed like every other rapper in 2000s and wears a hat. And it's like, you're not Spider-Man, It's kind of hard to tell who the fuck it is, because then they'd show back up later and be like, Pharrell, we're like best friends. Like, I can tell who Snoop Dogg is. He's very defined. I can tell who Pusha T is, because I'm a fan of his music. And he's got braids. And he's short.
Hair.
He's got the same hair as Snoop Dogg. Maybe the braids are thinner, but he's shorter. And then you got his friend, who is the only white dude in the movie.
He's Filipino in real life.
He's Filipino in real life, but he looks. The Lego piece makes him look.
I guess, like, what are you gonna do? Like, if you.
And that's the point, though. You can't even discern his race. How are you discerning?
Oh yeah, but like, what were they?
I don't even think Lego Pharrell looks particularly Pharrellish.
I looked at the picture of him, and his friend is like an obese Filipino man, and like, I don't know what you would do with that, because like, if you gave him squinty eyes, that'd look pretty bad.
That look pretty bad.
What is that?
You can't like make him fat too, but like, what would they do if
put him in a Japanese zero with a big straw hat and buck teeth? Like, I don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, definitely not that. That's for sure. But yes, I understand the sentiment. I agree. That's one thing I've noticed that's kind of hard. And like the other Lego movies, like you got like characters that are designed with Lego in mind. These rappers didn't dress with being put in a Lego biopic in mind back in like 2004. But they do a lot of like creative flourishes, and the world's really jumpy and fun. So there's good stuff to it. Overall, it's definitely fluff.
Yep.
It's strangely religious. I feel like a mainstream children's movie. It's strangely explicit at points, like very blatant things of like marijuana. Pusha T strongly alludes to his time selling cocaine in the film. Pharrell strongly alludes to when he sold weed in the film.
Snoop Dogg rolls up in a cloud of Lego smoke.
Yeah. Some songs like Kendrick Lamar's Alright you can censor pretty easy because the hook is kind of slow on that one.
Yeah.
The we gon' be alright. Like you can just cut out the word you need to cut out there, but some of them will be like, it'll be like Nelly and they're like cutting it halfway through the N word. You're like, okay. And then, I don't know. I thought it was decent enough. You can tell everybody really respects Pharrell. There is one point in the movie where it's Jimmy Iovine talking, like the head of Universal Records for like the past 700 years. Like he's probably like a clone or immortal or something like that. God knows what he did. But then like the following scene is the sad arc. Like I feel like they wanted to present some like really neutered conflict. So they talk about how critics didn't like his efforts from like 2007 to 2010.
Yep.
Until he made Happy. And they represent it with like industry suit guys, which are like 3 suits that are following him around and convincing him to like sell champagne and do skateboard ads and stuff. And they're like, he was being creative and trying to do new things, but what he needed to do was get back to being creative and doing new things. Which is like almost verbatim a line in this thing. Like that's kind of the problem with the interview too. Is there were a couple like less than graceful moments that were kind of odd. Like I think Busta Rhymes just got kind of tongue tied for a second. They left it in
after he makes the music. After he's like the big producer for a while, he like made glasses for Gucci and was like a runway model. And the movie's like, wasn't it horrible when he was making millions of dollars designing glasses for Gucci instead of making music? So sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, they're like, and then what happens is once you stop selling records, then they don't want to give you millions of dollars anymore. So then he started making music again to facilitate his fame, and it was shitty. But then they also like make, and I know it's because he signed to Universal Records, and this is a Universal film, parent company of Illumination. but they act like his creative epiphany that brings them all back is when he made Happy. And, like, Happy is definitely a big song. And I don't even think it's a terrible song for a kid's movie, granted. I thought it was pretty annoying back in, like, 2013 because it was very overplayed.
Yep.
But my point is, like, that is a big career moment, but I can't take it very seriously when he's like, something had to change and opportunity came knocking, and then he turns his head and there's like 7 minion characters staring at him. You're like, okay, I guess so. I guess opportunity came and knocking in the form of some yellow creatures.
Yeah.
And then they're like, he made like 8 demos for the movie and just couldn't crack it. And I'm like, I've heard like, I know enough about music to know that like 8 scrapped songs.
Not that many.
That's not terrible.
Have you seen how many scrapped songs Kanye West does for each album?
I feel like a lot of musicians do, or they just like work on it. Like, is that like, how many iterations of Happy did he do? Like, I'm sure like, you know, Happy's a very clean and well produced song. So I'm sure it took a while. I'm sure the lyrics didn't take very long, obviously. But for pop music, it does a very good job being pop music.
Yep.
I think it's hard to kind of come up with thoughts besides the fact that this movie's bizarre, which is pretty much the reason I wanted to see it.
Yep.
It plays Pharrell's greatest hits, and Pharrell's a pretty good producer. A lot of these songs I already know and love, or I know them and think they're okay.
Yep.
And I said, wow, they really just played a bunch of Pharrell songs. I saw Pusha T and Daft Punk and Jay-Z and Gwen Stefani,
Nelly.
Justin Timberlake, Nelly, Busta Rhymes, Snoop Dogg. You saw them all. And they all talked about how fucking awesome Jimmy Iovine, you know? Jimmy Iovine's like those damn record producers. He's like, I've been doing this since my stem cells rejuvenated my body. For a second, I thought I was going to have to retire from Universal Records until Elon Musk came to my house and started injecting baby life essence into me until I was restored to run Universal Records for another 1,000 generations. Those damn dirty people who want to sign Pharrell to make a design for their skateboard. It's fucking greedy of them. And then he kisses a Tomahawk missile and donates it directly to Israel. He puts like some red lipstick on and kisses the head of the ballistic missile and sends it off. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Jay-Z's there too. Jay-Z's like, some people call me a superstar, and I know I'm one of the most creative people ever. Me and my wife Beyonce are worth $3 billion. I definitely have never done anything illegal. I sold a bag of weed behind the McDonald's.
Do not look into why I moved out of the country right after Diddy got arrested.
Well, yeah, this movie was shot before everybody started really getting down on
Before the dominoes fell. That's why they tucked it back in Theater 18.
Yeah, Jay-Z's paying AMC to waterboard it. He's like, I know it'll make no kid want to see it. Throw the Artesian label around it. Me and Beyonce are on the jet out the country, but we need more time. Keep the heat off of us by putting the Artesian label on Pharrell's thing. I have an idea how to get people to not pay attention to us. I'll have J. Cole drop a shitty-ass song as we get in the private jet to take off for the Bahamas. For 15 minutes, people will be so preoccupied with J. Cole before forgetting about him again.
Yep.
But anyways, Pharrell. Meh. The movie was okay. And what did you think of Pharrell? The downfall of Jay-Z, the indictment of Jimmy Iovine, and The Diddler quest. What do you think of Pharrell 2 what if they should make
Lego the Diddler.
Yeah, they should make a whole bunch. They've already they're like, this Pharrell movie is hot.
Cinematic
And
universe.
Jimmy Iovine's sitting there with
Lego Diddy goes
with the
to
head of
Lego.
the Illumination B team that truly had to make this, and they're like, look, we got the Lego license for 1 year. You know, Pharrell took us a long time, but we got the formula down. We need to rush a Diddy movie to theaters.
Lego Diddy goes to Lego costume.
What if it's over the phone, you know? Like, the movie starts, and he's in a little Lego prison, and it pans down, and he's on the phone, and he's like, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a bad boy. And then it cuts into, like, a Biggie Smalls song, and he's like, I never wrote a single one of my songs or produced them. But I made people sign shitty contracts, and then I filmed them fucking people so I could extort them further. He's like, by my ninth wife, I realized she was being kind of a bitch. So, like my 8th and 7th wife, I beat the shit out of her.
It's got to be like it's got to be like Silver Surfer in The Flash, where it's just like horribly crackly, crusty prison phone dialogue that they animate Legos over.
He's like, I got nothing to lose. I killed Tupac, and then he shows little Legos. Little Lego Diddy put on his little Lego ski mask. And
I'm gonna be honest, 50 was right. I killed Diddy.
I did kill Diddy. I'm a clone, bro. The original Sean Puffy Combs was a good guy.
I killed Biggie.
The day he signed Biggie Smalls, my cloning was complete.
Anyway, I'm gonna talk about my thoughts
and
on this movie.
And who cloned me but Jimmy Iovine?
I didn't think we'd get this far.
Jimmy Iovine himself.
Yeah, it's a good documentary. I guess the big question mark here is, how and why is this a interview style documentary that they animated with Legos instead of just being an interview style documentary that they could have made for $15,000 and put on Netflix like every other interview style documentary?
Yes.
This was a destined flop. It's not Lego-y enough for the Lego fans. I don't know how many real fans Pharrell has. Like, I think everyone recognizes he's a good producer, but he's made like 15 solo songs, and I guess like the Neptunes existed at one point and don't anymore. And
there was one Neptunes album, 2 Nerd albums, and 2 solo albums.
Well, the only Neptunes... I think
he, in his 40-year career, has made like fucking 5 albums.
Yes, and the Neptunes had one album 30 years ago, and then Nerd had one album 20 years ago, and then one album 10 years ago, and then he made Happy. So I don't know how many real Pharrell heads are out here sprinting to the theater to see the Lego Pharrell movie.
Yeah.
And especially like, I don't know, like you can't sell it to rap fans because it's like a weird Lego movie for babies. But it's like weirdly religious and has like Black Lives Matter riots at the end and like I don't know. It's a very strange idea. Like if this was just a regular interview style documentary that got dropped on Netflix, well, one, I probably wouldn't have watched it. So I guess the gimmick did its job of getting me to watch this movie.
I think my
But also, it would have just been a fine documentary, and now it's a fine documentary with a weird fucking gimmick.
I think my see, unlike Pharrell's autism brain, which works in Legos and music, mine works in Legos too. And my Lego idea is that Universal should have tried to see if Tyler Perry would pay for this, because this would fucking sell on his network.
Yes, would kill on BET.
I think he does own BET now, but
he partially owns BET, and he also has his own.
No, I thought he bought
the
BET.
Family Network.
I'm pretty sure he bought like BET, or he tried to, and
he might have bought it, but I know he has partial ownership of BET, if nothing else, and he also has one called like Medea Family Network.
But that's what I'm saying, like vaguely religious, but references to Pharrell being a good kid, but kind of naughty, but religious,
and then
he likes music.
And then he gets out of the projects and becomes a cool guy who's really nice. And also he's friends with all the cool rappers who are religious or nice, like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. I mean, that's like every Tyler Perry movie from what I've seen.
Yeah,
Maybe,
pretty much. This could have
maybe
been,
not as specific, but
This could have been a Tyler Perry production on like BET or Medea Family Network or whatever.
maybe
else
the
called.
problem, though, in part why our theater was so empty is because,
We live in a city that doesn't have any black people.
yeah, well, it's
I don't
primarily like Indians and like a lot of immigrants in the city. A lot of immigrants in the city. So I think it's possible that we didn't hit the demo.
Yeah,
Because I ran a theater and I think this shit would have killed at Arbor Lakes. Because like Sonic the Hedgehog, that killed at Arbor Lakes. Lots of interesting things. I feel like, you know, so
It's
it could
Just-
I don't think, but it could do okay. Maybe we just went to the wrong theater for it.
But you know, despite the fact that it's a weird idea, the animation's really nice. It's like well animated. They do a lot of creative shooting and creative storytelling through it. It still feels like a gigantic waste of money to do it this way, instead of just making it a 2-part miniseries on Hulu or something. But you know, it's a good documentary. You just have to get past the weirdness of the concepts. That being the Lego thing. But outside of that, it's a really standard kind of puff piece documentary, since it's all told by Pharrell mostly and like Pharrell's friends. And they kind of like, you know, they got the forced sad arc, but they don't like go into any real negatives. Like there's one line where Pharrell's like, I was kind of a shitty person to my friends, and they don't really talk about it. They just kind of skim past that, and then they're like, and then he made happy, and it was all good again.
Pretty much. Well, he had like a moment where he dreamed he went to space or something.
Yeah, then he meets Carl Sagan for some reason, who's dead. They brought him back, like Grand Moff Tarkin, as a giant Lego spaceman.
Okay, here's my theory. So Peacock is Universal, because NBC Universal. My theory is this is pitched. They're gonna do Peacock original, and then some executives said, meh, let's just throw it in theaters, and then when it flops, we'll just pretend it's new and we put it on Peacock. Because I think something like this would kill on Peacock, because you're like, oh, the fucking Lego movie, whatever, and then they throw it on for their kids and don't pay attention. Or, I don't know, I feel like it's a multi-fact. I can't imagine they thought that this would make its money back in theaters. Like, I doubt it's the most expensive.
No, but it looks pretty fucking expensive, especially for what is, at the end of the day, an interview documentary.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the budget?
Yeah, just because I'm curious. Which one? It says
Piece by piece.
Fucking hell.
No, he says the line brick by brick in the movie, but it's called piece by piece.
I also kind of am curious what Morgan Neville deal is. 16 million. Okay, you know what?
It might make that. That's
For,
a low bar.
okay, but for 16 million?
It looks good for 16 million.
That's,
I guess, like, realistically, in the scenario where you're making an interview documentary, that whole 16 million can go to the animation budget.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people who are credited, there's 4 credited writers.
Sure,
like
but
5 producers, but I feel like
the credited writers are probably like basically storyboard artists for the animation stuff, because this is just an interview documentary. You know.
Well, yeah, no, it was the head writer is Morgan Neville, who directed the movie.
Yeah,
and he probably was like, you know, he put
wrote
together
the questions and
he
guided
guided it,
the narrative. Yeah,
and then it's only 90 minutes. But I'm actually guessing, since Pharrell probably was, like, he's a producer, so Pharrell probably didn't take anything up front.
yeah,
And I'm guessing he just called in a favor on all his buddies, because, like,
yeah,
I'm sure if it was some producer that Jay-Z worked with twice, he'd probably charge, like, $2 million for a sit-down if it wasn't his buddy Pharrell.
yeah.
Which is the vibe I get from everybody.
Yeah, so most of that 16 million probably went into the animation, and it looks good for it. And at 16 million, it'll probably make some profit that is like a pretty small number, and then they'll put it on Peacock. It'll make like 20 million in theaters, and they'll put it on Peacock, and it'll make like another 10 million over time. So it's a fine investment, and I'm sure, I don't know.
I'm shocked because I just know how movie studios operate, so I figured this movie costed like 70, 80 million, to be honest with you. Because the animation's like startlingly good. There's a couple chunky parts where you could tell it wasn't like the fucking Lego movie, so to speak.
Yeah.
But also, I guess like music royalties. You don't gotta put money towards the music.
Yeah, because they own all.
You don't gotta put money towards actors. I mean, I guess the budget does whittle down to they spent $16 million to animate it in Legos, which I still think was a pretty good.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the weirdness is that they could have made this for like $15K if it was just an interview documentary, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking little project. The music in it is good. I mean, it's just like a jukebox selection of good songs Pharrell produced, and they ignore like the 1,000 other mediocre songs he probably produced, and they ignore the existence of Nerd entirely. Because there wasn't a place to put it between Happy and
They brought it up
I
for like
guess.
2 seconds. They like threw it in a montage when he like first started going big in his career. He was like rapping a song on stage, and there was a Nerd banner behind him.
But yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's well made. It's a decently interesting documentary, if a bit fluffy. The animation's nice. It comes together pretty well. I didn't think we were going to talk about this for this long. You kind of went off the rails. Connor, would you recommend Piece by Piece?
Yeah, I recommend Piece by Piece. I don't think it's great, but if you like Pharrell, if you like Legos, if you're anywhere in my Venn diagram I made earlier, you'd probably get something out of it. Lego fans, there's cute Lego building and shit. It's not Lego movie quality, but it's cute. Music fans, Pharrell's a pretty cool producer. He's a fun guy to hang out with. I don't think it's groundbreaking. I think it's slightly weird, but I think you could probably take like youngish kids to it, and it's a good time, and it's fun. It's fun enough. So Aiden, would you recommend Lego Pharrell movie?
Yeah, mostly the people interested in music. It's not like some deep dive behind the process of making music, but Pharrell's a fairly interesting guy, so maybe like younger band kids or like kids with interest in music, or just adults who are interested in animation and music and that kind of stuff. It's more interesting for the musical aspect and the documentary aspect than it is for like the weird Lego gimmick. But the visuals are nice. It's a decently put together documentary with a weird gimmick. So if you like documentaries, especially ones focusing on music and musicians, it's a nice selection of songs to jam along to. It looks nice. I got nothing to complain about.
Yep.
I'm saying that we squeezed 30 minutes out of this one.
Not quite. We got more, because did you see the poster for the sequel to The Invisible Woman?
Yeah, the
The
Wolfman
Invisible
looks
Man.
crazy.
The Wolfman, where the...
She's got the fingers through the eyes poster.
Yep. My estimation of it, 5 years after the events of The Invisible Man, the lady from Mad Men and Handmaid's Tale is still sad because she was once repressed by her invisible boyfriend. But she's found a nice, hunky, new man who's a
And then the full
CGI...
moon comes out.
It's a CGI reincarnation of Lon Chaney. But then, you know, it starts good, and then it time lapses, and over time, it goes from young Lon Chaney of the first Wolfman to like Lon Chaney from like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, where he's like aged 40 years in 5 years because he just became such a drug addict and alcoholic, and he just wants to make
It
money.
was a different time.
And it cuts back to him
He really
beating the
was.
shit out of her, frankly.
It really
And then one night he turns into a fucking wolf. And then at the end of the movie, and no one believes her. They're saying, "You're stupid. You're a whore. Maybe she like cheats on him like moderately after he like gets really abusive, and she like cries and tells him, and then he becomes a werewolf.
I think
he'll be like, "You
reveal,
cheating whore," and
I think the big reveal, like she makes out with a guy at a party, and then at the end of this movie, she gets with him, and she's like, "We're gonna live happily ever after."
And then he wipes the makeup off, and he has bright green skin.
I was gonna say, as he's walking away, his cape unfurls, and it's a big red Dracula cape.
Oh. Or maybe she's like, I'm safe here now in the Notre Dame Cathedral. And then it goes, dong, dong, dong. And she said, and then you hear,
oh no,
you're looking stunning tonight.
The Wolfman throws him off the building, and he lands on his back, and he's like, "Oh, I have a hunchback now. Do you want to come live with me in my clock tower?"
Oh yeah, she gets a new hunky boyfriend named Quasi.
No, he's just called Q because it's mysterious.
Maybe he's Chinese and his name is Q Moto.
Oh, bring back.
And she's like, Q, are you okay? They have, except now it's the universal dark universe of domestic abuse remakes of the classic monster movies.
I guess it's not as funny as...
I like the long-winded cinematic universe names. Like, that was an invention by Sony, where they're like the Sony Ultimate Universe. And then, like, Hasbro's is called, like, the Hasbro Universe of Realm Space Knight, Transformers, G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, and Monopoly. Shared Combination Universe, Bavers, Travis Knight.
I like to call it the...
like, it's tags or something.
The Sony Marvel officially licensed Mockbuster Spider-Man villain cinematic universe.
Do you think when Amy Pascal came up with it, because I don't know if it's reporters that like ran with the stupid shit that they came up with in a board meeting after 5 minutes, but I've seen it abbreviated when like I'll like click on an article about like Kraven the Hunter or Venom 3 or something, and it'll be like the MS35297 Venom universe of related Spider-Man properties bar Spider-Man is coming back with a brand new film, Venom 3, and fans are not thrilled. They're already memeing the movie. I feel like Sony's gotta like just give up. Like they gotta know they're cooked when the fans just are memeing the movie. But anyways, I'm excited to see the Wolfman.
I'm excited
beat
to see
women.
Venom on a horse next week, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.